How you doing? This is Menn O Light. We're doing an interview with Steve Beckman, who goes to Rockville Mennonite Church, where we attend. I'm going to just let you take this over and give your testimony.
All right.
His Jesus story.
So I am Steve Beckman, and I do attend here at Rockville Mennonite Church, as the man said. I came to know Jesus about 15 years ago after a life that was pretty far from him. I was a professional musician for a number of years. I was in bar bands in the Philadelphia area and lived a life of a lot of different addictions, anger, pride, lust, alcohol, and just generally a life pretty far from God, even though I put on a pretty good show, and I did go to church at times in those years. Just wasn't living the life that I should have been. That's pretty distracting.
Tell us what you're doing.
What are you doing? You're
jumping and climbing the pole.
And that's Thomas. That's my son. He's not doing real good at climbing that pole, by the way. Come on, keep going.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, like I was trying to listen to you and then I keep hearing it out loud. Trying to stay focused.
I'm trying to figure out where to look here.
He's determined. They got to give him that much.
At least all 7 kids ain't here, right?
Yeah, that's right, because it could get a lot more distracting. So it finally, yeah, they're coming later. It finally, I had, I guess, 2 kids when I finally did come to the Lord, and it was as a result of the drummer in one of the bands I was playing in finally telling me the truth and being like, you know, your biggest problem, come here, Thomas. I figure if you're going to be distracting, you can do it over here. Come here. Guy poking his finger in my chest and saying, because I had finally kind of cracked and said, you know, I need help. I can't keep living this life because I knew it wasn't right. I didn't know why it wasn't right, but I knew because I couldn't stop doing all these things that I knew were wrong. And I asked this guy to pray for me. I knew he was a Christian. And he literally hit me in the chest with the Bible. He impacted me with the Word of God. And said, you know, I will pray for you, but what you need to do is you need to take this book and you need to read it and you need to learn who Jesus really is, because your biggest problem is not that you're addicted to these things. Your biggest problem is that you don't know Jesus. And I took that book home and I started reading in Romans. And I know it's not the book that most people read when they first come to the Lord, but that's where I started. And what I saw in the beginning of that book was my life story. It was just this descent, this guy that starts off not recognizing God for who he is, right? And then all these sins start to come on and it just spirals, kind of spiraling. What I saw is spiraling out of control. And that was my life story. That was definitely my life story. And it hit me because there's one verse in there in the first chapter that talks about where Paul is not ashamed of the gospel, right? He's ready to preach to these people in Rome because he's not ashamed of the gospel. And it wasn't like he was not ashamed to talk about it. It was like he was not ashamed because he knew it worked. Like that's what I felt like was behind it. And I knew that the gospel that I had heard, it didn't work in my life. So there was something missing. And I don't know when it was. It wasn't like there was this big cataclysmic moment when it all hit me. But it was shortly thereafter when I just realized that, see, I'd been trying for all this time. I was trying to live right. I was trying to do the right thing. I knew I had kids. I had a wife. And I had a family. And I was in danger of just throwing it all down the toilet. And it just wasn't working. And so I finally, when I cried out to God, my cry literally was, all right, fine. I'll go to hell if that's what it takes. But I need your help to make sure that the rest of my family doesn't follow.
Can I get out of
Yep, you can
Hey,
go.
hold on, come here. I want to ask you a question
Come here.
once. Come here real quick. What's your favorite Bible verse? You got it memorized?
Hi, Daddy.
Hi, Sarah.
I don't read them. We had fun all day.
Yeah?
I don't have a Bible.
Well, tell him why. You just learned to read, so he'll have a Bible.
Okay.
This
You
one
love
has
Jesus?
a Bible.
Let me hear you get a, ah.
Come on, yell for him.
Yes, that one. He's a little shy. Well, we try.
But that was the moment. That it was shortly thereafter that I realized that, you know what, it wasn't about what I was trying to do. It was about what God did that I couldn't do. It was about Jesus doing what I couldn't do. And see, what I was trying to do is I was trying to be Jesus in my own life, and I was trying to save myself, and I was trying to do the right thing and be the right person. And I gave up because it didn't work. And it was when I realized that there wasn't anything I could do. That's when he stepped in, and I think he literally plucked me out of the fire and said, now that you realize this, now that you're kind of done trying, now it's my turn to do the work. And it, you know, I would have loved to have said that like everything was right from that moment, you know, like everything turned around and my whole life was right. And it didn't go that way. But you know what? It took me a long time to get myself to that point. And God didn't just wipe it all off at once, but the more I walked with him, the longer that went, the more stuff just kept coming off of me. And he kept teaching me a little bit at a time. It's been 15 years now, and I'm still learning, and I'm still walking.
Let me ask you a question. All right, for some people who might have kids and wonder, right? How do you, like, so, because some people might only have one kid or maybe have no kids and say they don't have time to find time and, you know, to read their Bible and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you got 7 kids, so that might make it a little more difficult at times. How do you find and, you know, set time aside to work on all these different things?
Well, I know it maybe not for everybody, but I realized for me that if I was going to do this, you know, and it's some of us learn by what doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
And that's definitely me. And so I realized that if I'm getting up and the kids are up and I'm just kind of starting in on my day and everything, that often doesn't work for me. So what I do is I make sure I get up before they do. So I get up like 5:30 in the morning so that I can sit down with some coffee, because that's necessary at 5:30 in the morning, and my Bible. And I read the Bible in the morning before I start my day, and I spend some time in prayer. And that's my time. And that helps me to set up my day. So I remember it's because I have kids that I got to do this, because the biggest burden I have is to make sure that those kids grow up and they know the Lord. Because I didn't grow up like that. That wasn't my background. So you know, I want it to be their background. So I got to ground myself and start myself that way. So that's when I do it. And then I carry it with me. It's on my phone, you know, and whenever I get time, get a few minutes to myself, I try and get a refresher in there. But that's my big times in the mornings.
We got kids running around playing hide and go seek. But
And 3 of them are mine.
yeah. And
But that's what it's about, right? These kids coming into the house of the Lord, and they're having a good time, man. They're excited to be here, and that's really, really cool.
yeah, I just thought it was funny, you know, because it's like we start off with just one, and then it's cool.
Well, you know what? That's how
hearing-
it worked for me, too.
Yeah.
We started off with just one, and then all of a sudden it's full.
I started hearing like the floor, like boom, 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 and then the next thing you know, there's kids everywhere.
That is how it happens.
And then, if say there's somebody who doesn't know the Lord, what would be the best thing you could say to them?
You know, I wrestle with this daily. Like, what is it that I can say to anybody if I could pass on one message? Like, I meet somebody in a store, I meet somebody out in the street, right? And everybody's got something on their shoulders, right? Everybody's carrying around something. There's some kind of burden. And, you know, so some people have said, well, you got to go and you got to get this counseling degree. You got to go and you got to get this bachelor's of science in you know, Bible and whatever. You know when little kids play soccer, they're all clustered around the ball, right? And they're all running around the field. You always know where the ball is because that's where all the kids are, right? And then as they get older and they get more sophisticated, the play kind of spreads out, and it's like they don't even know where the ball is. So they're playing these sophisticated plays. Well, I'm like those little kids, and that ball is Jesus. So if I got one moment in time with somebody and I got one thing to share with them, it's Jesus. It's whatever the problem is, the only answer I have to give to you is Jesus. And you may be hungry, and I'm going to try and feed you if I can. But more important than that food is Jesus, because he'll keep you from going back to whatever that problem is. That's what it is.
When you said about soccer, I'll just tell you this. It made me think about, all the kids running around looking for the ball, right? I was thinking, where was I at when I used to play soccer? I was the fat little kid on the side that wasn't allowed to play. I was eating the oranges. But anyway, last question is, if you could express God's love in any sound, what would it be? Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Yeah.
It is.
All right. Well, this was a Menn O Light interview here with Steve Beckman. Thank you. It was good.
Thank you, man. Love you, brother.
Love you too.